Hi, it's Sandy, and today I'm bringing you the mid-year book freakout tag. I swear, no matter how many times I say it, I always manage to get it wrong, so I think I did it right that time. Normally I wouldn't do this tag until a little bit later. It is currently the 22nd of June. Normally I would do this video in July, but I'm doing it now for a couple of reasons. One, this video should technically have gone up yesterday as I'm filming it, but I have been unwell. We all know I've been not well the past few weeks and things just have caught up with me and I've been really unwell. And then, to add injury to injury, I scratched the hell out of my eye. Not just the cornea, no, the inside of my eyelid as well. And so if I can't tell if my eye still looks funny, it was all like bloodshot and stuff like that. And I've been on like antibiotic. I keep calling them eye drops. It's not eye drops, it's like a gel. So like I have to put a gel, like a thick gel in my eye. So I think my eye looks weird compared to the other eye. So I've been dealing with that for the last couple of days. That happened on Thursday. And I'd been so unwell that I'd left filming my Friday video to the last minute thinking I was fine. Like, the thing is, the video was meant to film. I'd pushed from the week before because I'd been so unwell, and it's just, I've not gotten any better. So I keep pushing this video that I meant to film, and then I had no inspiration for a video to do, and it's all combined. And so now I'm doing the mid-year book freakout tag because I want to get a video out. I don't want to skip a week, I want to get a video out. So this video was coming out late for a video, like I'm meant to have a video out on Friday. So this is now Saturday that I'm filming. Hopefully I'm going to edit and get this out on Saturday. And early for the mid-year freakout tag. But normally I would do it, like I say, normally I would do the mid-year freakout tag in July to give myself the full 6 months. Like the end of June is the mid-year point. So normally I would do the mid-year book freakout tag so that I've got all the stuff for the end of June. But I have managed to get my TBR down to the point where I'm looking at it's over there. I'm looking at my TBR because I separate it out, where pretty much all that is left on my TBR is rereads. Like, I've gotten it down to just my 4 rereads and 3 books that I am like first time reading. But based on these questions, I don't think any of them are going to get onto this list. So I'm comfortable doing this a little bit early. And also, July is already going to be like a stat heavy video, like month. I've got my quarterly wrap up to do, like wrap up and haul to do. And then I've got my 6-month check-in to do to see if I've hit my goals and stuff like that. And my I wanted to do like a 6-month check-in to do, like, go over what's my TBR, like, have I, like, so I don't want to add this onto, like, July's basically just going to be all stats and figures, and like there's not going to be like fun tag videos and stuff. Like, July is going to be just housekeeping. Like, all July is going to be housekeeping. So I feel like getting this one out in June is going to be better for me than just adding it into the pile that is July. I think maybe if I do this in June, I can maybe get a fun video out in July, but that's fine. I'm not really that bothered. Like, I'm not really that fussed, but this is just like one less video that I have to do in July with all this sort of information in it. And like I say, most of my books that I've got on my TBR are now rereads, so they're not getting added into this anyway. So I feel, anyway, like, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. It's literally, there's like how many, 9 days left in the 30 days. Has September, April, June and November. June, 30 days, 22nd, 8 days left in the month. I'm fairly comfortable that the 1, 2, 3 books that I'm reading that are on my TBR that are unread, like not previously read, are not going to make it onto this list. I've got Thunderhead, The Mystery at Dunvegan Castle, and Girl Goddess Queen are the 3 that are like the ones that are not rereads, and I'm fairly sure they're not going to beat out any of these. They might. I might be totally wrong, but I've only got 8 days left. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books in my TBR. I'm not confident I'm going to get it read. Let's be honest. Anyway, all that rambling and over-justifying myself aside, there are 16 questions, statements, things, prompts in this. So I'm going to go through that. I have, in some of these, quite a few of these, picked more than one book, but again, hey-ho, my video. There's no hard and fast rules. I'm over-justifying again. Stop it. Stop it. If it bothers you that much, this is your point to click away from the video. If it's going to bother you that much. So, there's your warning. But yeah, I'm gonna shut up and get into the video. So the first one is the best book you've read so far in 2024. And I was looking over that, like, I looked over all the books, and eventually, I find this really difficult to sort of, like, surmise, but anyway, we're not over-justifying it. Eventually, I came to the conclusion that it had to be Always Only You by Chloe Leese. If you've been watching my vlogs or are one of my friends, you will know this series has had me in a chokehold this year. I binged through this series. I've cried, spoiler for later questions, for every one of these books. I've become, like, distraught that this family is not real. This is the second book in the Bergman Brothers series, and it follows Ren and Frankie, and Ren, as you can see, is a hockey player, and Frankie is the sort of social media manager for the hockey team, and it is an NHL hockey team, so like a professional hockey team. Frankie also, if you can't see here, she's got a cane or a walking stick, and Frankie has rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune condition, and also she has autism. And Ren is one of the Bergmans, and the Bergmans are this Swedish-American family who are just the most, like, the family themselves are cinnamon rolls, but Ren is the cinnamon roll of cinnamon rolls. His name is actually Soren, and he doesn't like the name Soren. It's funny because they're a Swedish family, but it's actually, I want to say, a Danish or a Finnish name. I can't remember. It is said in the book what it is, but it's not a Swedish name, which is funny because he's the only one that doesn't have a Swedish name. And he is the cinnamon roll of the cinnamon rolls. Like, he is just everything. Like, Frankie is such a curmudgeon and such a, like, between one, her personality in general, to the way her autism presents. So she has quite a brusque and flat, blunt way of putting things. And, like, a lot of people just think, oh, Frankie's a grump, Frankie will, like, eat you alive, Frankie's, like, you know, they have this idea of what Frankie is like, mostly because they don't know that she's autistic. And she has this very blunt, straightforward, like, straight to the point, no-nonsense way about her. And then also with the rheumatoid arthritis, Frankie is always in pain. So as someone who has a chronic pain condition, or a condition that causes chronic pain, I totally get that. Like, you try being in pain all the time and not being in a bad mood, or, like, not being grumpy, or getting to a point where the pain gets to a point where it makes you, like, affects your mood and stuff like that. Like, you know, so Frankie can, and she knows this herself, and it's part of her whole character arc, like, she can lash out at people, and especially people that she gets close to, that she can be quite curmudgeonly and lash out at people, and treat people in a way that even, like, on reflection she realises isn't quite the best way to have dealt with something. And Ren just, it's like it doesn't affect him. Like, it just takes it, and he's just like, okay. And she's like, wait, why is this not working? Like, she tries to push him away, and he's like, yeah, that's not gonna work with me. And she's like, I'm suspicious. I just love these two so much. This book just, I mean, I love hockey romances, and this, because they both work on the team, you see a lot more of the hockey. I love the representation for disability, and this especially a disability that I can kind of relate to more. I don't have rheumatoid arthritis, but I kind of can understand more on the side of when it comes to like the joint pain, the stiffness, the flare-ups, the like etc etc. Like it's there are enough crossovers that I can kind of get into the head of the character a little bit more, and like I relate to Frankie so much in so many ways. And she has a dog, a husky and a lusky. She is an Alaskan Malamute husky mix, and she is just the best. Like, I love her so much. This book, honestly, one of my favourites, and this whole series just has a special place in my heart. Next is the best sequel you've read so far in 2024, which is hilarious because that is obviously the second book in the series, so that could also cover that, but gone for another book, and that is The Gates of Guinea by Alice Arden. I lied to you, Jem. This is not the last time you're going to hear that last time was not the last time you're going to hear about this book. This is the fourth in a what's supposed to be a 5-book series by Alice Arden about New Orleans and witches and vampires and things like that in New Orleans. And it starts off, the first book is The Casket Girls, and this is book 4. We are still waiting on book 5, even though it was meant to come out early last year, I believe. I need this book, Alice. I need it so badly. This book, it didn't even... I mean, obviously it ends on, like, I feel like any book, when you're, like, 4 books deep in a series, ends on a cliffhanger. Like, I want to know what happens next. We are at the end of the story, but not quite the end. So I want to know what happens next. And Alice keeps saying, like, I know, like, we need to get this book out, but things obviously keep getting thrown up that she can't get the book out for reasons. These are indie published as well, so if you want to support Alice, then these are available, I think, on Amazon. I think it's actually Amazon that published them at Skyscape, which I think is an Amazon publishing, like it's an indie publishing thing through Amazon, I believe. But they are so worth it. The way that Alice describes New Orleans and the people of New Orleans, this is a complete love letter to New Orleans, and it makes you feel like you're there. The way she describes the city is so visceral. Like, you feel, you hear the music, you can smell the smells, it's so visceral, it takes you there. And I'm someone who has some form of aphantasia. I can't imagine things I've not seen. So to bring me that close is such a talent. A lot of this, like, helps that I've seen, like, things like the originals, which is set in New Orleans, but I at one point was able to pull a map up, like, on Google Maps and follow the protagonist's journey through New Orleans. Like, she goes from one place to another and describes the route as she's doing it, and not in a way that takes you out the story, just like in flashes, like this street, that street, like in bits and flashes and stuff like that. And it was so accurate, I could follow it on a map. This is how much Alice Arden knows New Orleans. She grew up in New Orleans. She was raised by the people. That's what it says in her author bio, that she was raised by the people in New Orleans. And this, honestly, this series is such a love letter to New Orleans. And I've never been there. I've never lived there. Had nothing to do with New Orleans, but it makes me love it as well. And that is such a talent. And I will not stop shouting about the series. Just, honestly, I cannot wait for book 5. So here's the first one where I couldn't choose just one book, and that is favourite reread. So this was a hard one. So there was two books that I could not, you can't make me choose between them. It's like choosing my favourite children. So one is one that I've recently reread, and you could probably guess from the fact that I recently reread it and have been talking about it, and that is Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is my favourite in the Chestnut Springs series and one of my favourite books ever. There are other books that are like my favourite books ever, like The Martian. Obviously, if I'd read The Martian this year, it would be on this list, but I have not read The Martian this year yet. Obviously, I'll read it at some point, but Reckless by Elsie Silver, I don't know what she put into this book, but oh my god, I need more people to read this series. I need more people to read this book, because this book just... it didn't even lose its poignancy the second time I read it, because this reread was the second time I read it, and it just, if anything, it was more poignant, and I absolutely loved it. And I love the characters, and I love the message, and I love everything about it. Like, this is a romance novel, but it is so much more, and together with the series, it just means so much. But even just on its own, the characters, the scenario that they are in, everything that goes on in this book is just so, I can't not have it as one of my favourite books of all time, and one of my favourite reads of the year, just has to be. And on that vein, of course, Red, White and Royal Blue has to be on there. I cannot get through this book without crying. I can't even hear the phrase history hat. There we go. I can't even say it without wanting to cry. Oh my god, shut up. I can't see the words, I can't say the words, I can't read the words without this happening. I don't know what Casey McQuiston put into this book, and honestly, I really don't know what made me connect with this book so much, but something about Red, White and Royal Blue just hits me so hard every single time. And it's funny because I read In Memoriam, and I don't know if it's because there's a part of In Memoriam by Alice Munn is told in letter format, or there are sections not in letter. It's not told in letter format. That's not what I mean. There are sections where the boys send letters to each other because one is on the front and one is at school, and there are others where one is at the front at one point, like one place in France, for example. I don't think that's correct, but one is in Belgium, one is in France, for example, and so they send letters back and forward just as friends. And then you get like some backstory and stuff like that, but it's similar to the way the emails are told in this. And there's something about that vulnerability when you believe that there is only you and that person that you're talking to able to read the words. So there's something about, and I find, so when I am having issues with my mental health, a lot of the time what I will do and what I advise other people to do is write it down. Like, type it out, write it down by hand, just write it down. Doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't have to be legible, it doesn't have to make sense, just write it down as it comes out. And it's so cathartic getting it out. And there's something about when you write a letter to someone, or write an email, or write to someone, it's so different from speaking to someone like via your mouth, like orally. And there's something so vulnerable about being able to write to someone in either email format or letter format, and the vulnerability that comes across in these emails and the vulnerability that comes across in the letters in Memoriam. And that reminded me so much of that. I think that's why In Memoriam touched me so much, in, other than the fact that it's like young schoolboys going to war during World War I, which was one of the most heinous wars in history. But Red, White and Royal Blue just, there's just something about it, something about the vulnerability and the hope and the raw, unadulterated, just vulnerability. That really is it, the vulnerability and the love and the just pure heart of it all that just hits different when it comes to, it's funny because like books like this, everybody talks about, like, there's the whole, book talk must be stopped because they're reading all these smutty books and blah 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 blah. But really, like, things like Red, White and Royal Blue, yeah, there's like quite a, like, when I first read it I thought, oh my god, that's quite a graphic sex scene, and in this there's also like quite graphic sex scenes. And yet one of the things that I love about both of these books is that the way the characters love each other is just so pure and so deep and so vulnerable, and it's so beautiful, like unbelievably beautiful, and it just really, really gets me, so yeah, I couldn't choose between these, and I absolutely love them both. 3 questions in, and we're already batting for long video. I will try and work on that. So number 4 is the genre you have been loving / reading the most, and I don't think anybody is going to be shocked when I say that is romance. Even the fantasy that I've been reading, like the fantasy, paranormal fantasy, sci-fi fantasy, like it's romance. Like my Arjuna books, they're fantasy romance. Like everything, it's been romance. I have this shelf here, like from here down to the floor is romance, just pure romance. And this went from being 3 shelves to being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm now going to have to move my sci-fi because I've got more romancing coming onto that shelf. So yeah, even like I have so much. It's romance. It's romance. Next up is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. For that, I basically just grabbed one of the newest releases off the top of my cart, and that is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. Wild Eyes, which is the next one in this series, has just been announced with the cover, which is going to be basically like this but bright orange and obviously say Wild Eyes. I have been loving rereading the Elsie Silver books. It's not a prequel series, but it kind of is. So the Chestnut Spring series sort of follows this family, the Eaton brothers, but they have a sister, Violet, and she lives on, what's it called? She lives on this other ranch on the other side of these mountains, and it's a horse racing ranch. I can't say that quickly. And there is 4 books in that series, so it follows Violet and 3 of her friends, basically, and how they find their husbands. That sounds bad when I say it like that, but it's basically like them and their partners. Romance novels. It's 4 romance novels about them and their partners, basically. And they're being reprinted to sort of match these, and I'm so excited to get them. Like, you cannot imagine how excited I am to get them, because I don't have physical copies because the previous prints were ugly as sin, and so I am so excited to get ones that match. But yeah, I didn't initially want to get this, but rereading the Chestnut Spring series has just made me realise how much I actually love Elsie Silver's writing, and rereading it and just remembering how much her writing comes on in leaps and bounds and how much I love the characters. I'm just trusting the process. There are other new releases that I'm excited to read, like Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. We love a new Ali Hazelwood, but Elsie Silver is quickly becoming one of my favourite authors of all time. So, you know, this is a billionaire romance, so this will be a new sort of thing for me. I've never read a billionaire romance before, which is why I was scared, but you know what? In Elsie we trust. Talking of new releases, the next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Now, I have a few I want to talk to you about. First off, and these are in order of release date as of now. Some of these may get moved about, but for now, this is based on the release dates as we have them as of today's date. So the first is the Blackbird Oracle by Diana Gabaldon. That is the 5th book in this series here. I'm calling it the 5th book because I can and I am. So this is the All Souls trilogy. And then we've got, so this is the trilogy, so we've got Dark Shade of Magic. We've got A Discovery of Witches, Shadow of Night, and The Book of Life. Oh, I did that right. No way I did that right. That is on camera. You saw that happen. And then we have Times Convert on this. And I love the fact that like everybody pronounces this differently. You get Times Convert and Times Convert. Like the different way you pronounce it just makes it sound different. Anyway, so these first 3 follow Matthew and Diana, and then this one follows, it comes directly after this book, but it follows Matthew's son and his partner, Phoebe. And so you do see Matthew and Diana, but it's like, so that's why I'm calling the Blackbird Oracle the 5th book, because it goes back to following Matthew and Diana, or specifically Diana, but I'm assuming it'll be Matthew heavy as well. So it will be like the 5th in sequence of these, you know what I mean. So Blackbird Oracle by Diana Gabaldon. This is going to follow up after the sequence of events in these books. It is the 5th in this, so I'm not going to read this synopsis, but basically this is a story about Diana, who is a witch, and she is from one of the most powerful witch families, but she doesn't really have powers and she's not really interested in being a witch, but she is a scholar and she's working at Oxford. And there are these creatures, there are 3 types of creatures in the world. There are demons, witches, and vampires, and they live amongst the humans, but there's a covenant within the demons, witches, and vampires, and that is that they do not spend time together. They do not mix. They stay within their I was going to say clades. I've been watching too much Clint's Reptiles. They stay within their groups. The witches stay with the witches, the vampires stay with the vampires, the demons stay with the demons, and nary the two shall meet. Sorry, I'm getting really Scottish. And they don't mix, because when they mix, they start to become more obvious to the humans. And also, their leaders would like to keep them apart for reasons unknown. But when Diana pulls a manuscript from the Bodleian Library, the creatures suddenly become a little more interested in her. But she doesn't find what she wants in the manuscript and she sends it back. But then nobody can call it from the library again. Turns out this manuscript has been missing for hundreds of years and nobody has ever been able to find it until she pulls it from the stacks. In comes Matthew, who is people keep calling him an ancient vampire when they talk about this. He's not that ancient in regards to, like, there are older vampires in this world, but he is like a very well respected vampire from a very well respected and ancient family of vampires. And he decides that he's going to take it upon himself to kind of half protect and half watch Diana, because he also wants this manuscript, but he is also inexplicably drawn to Diana, and she is also drawn to him, and he is the only person that she feels safe around, which includes her own sort of witches. You know, she feels safer with Matthew, who's a vampire, than she does with the witches in the area. And that does not go down well with the witches in the area. Becca in the books described this as adult Twilight, and I read this book, like, these are some of my favourite books, and I read them years ago. I've been rereading these for years and I've never made that connection. And see, when the minute she said that and the penny dropped, I was like, oh my god, it's adult Twilight. It really, really is adult Twilight. The second book does take a dip back into history and it is very, very heavy historical fiction. Diana Gabaldon herself is a historian and a scholar, and you can very, very much tell that in the way that she writes these books. I love these books for their sort of detail into history and to scholar life and stuff like that. It is very much in a similar sort of vein to Babel, but with a very romance heavy main plot in amongst all of that. So yeah, I am really, really excited for the Blackbird Oracle. I can't speak. So I'm actually getting the hardback, even though I have these in paperback, because I am desperate to read this book and jump back in to Diana and Matthew's story, because I was satisfied with the ending. Like, I'm not saying like, oh my god, I hated the ending, blah, blah, blah. Like, not like that, but like, I wanted more, and now we're getting more, and I am so excited. Next up is the Percy Jackson and the Wrath of the Triple Goddess by Rick Riordan, obviously by Rick Riordan. This is the next in the new trilogy of Percy Jackson books. So we've got the original 5, the Heroes of Olympus, and then we've got, this is the first in the new trilogy. I'm putting it here because, like, I've put them here in my books, even though it was written here. Like, so here's Trials of Apollo, Sun and the Star. Technically it was written here because this is Magnus Chase, different series. Technically it's written here, but in the timeline, it goes here, so that's how I've organised it. So this is the second in the new Percy Jackson trilogy that follows Percy as he is trying to get letters of recommendation to go to college. And so here we find our original 3, I think, I'm just assuming, going on another quest. Percy, Annabeth, Grover, I assume, going on another quest, and I'm so excited. I don't even know what it's about. I'm assuming the Triple Goddess is going to be Hecate. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I have heard people say it and I took it on board, and then when I try and say it, I forget how it's pronounced. But yeah, that's how I think the Triple Goddess might be. But I've not read the synopsis because I don't care, I'm buying it. And then there is the new Patricia Cornwell Scarpetta book. Of course, we all know I'm going to be reading that as soon as I get it, and that is Identity Unknown. And if Patricia Cornwell brings out a new Scarpetta book, I'm buying it. They're all lined up. Like, I've had to line them up across 2 bookshelves because there are so many books. These books are older than me. The first one was published, I think, in 1990. I was born in 1992. Somebody gave me one of these books. Like, I think it was like the 15th book in the series to read, because they were like, oh, I think you'll like this author. It was called Book of the Dead. And it doesn't really matter, because even though the books are a series, you can kind of pick them up and read them however, and I loved it. Like, I was interested in forensics forever. I studied forensics at university. I got this first book that I read when I was in high school, or not even like just no more in high school. So like 13, 14 maybe. I ate it up, and immediately my mum, whenever she found these books in charity shops and stuff, she came across them, she would buy them for me. So this is the most mismatched collection I have, and I love it so much because it means so much to me that my mum would do that. And like, there's no cohesive like single book set of these because they are so old. And I'm so invested in Scarpetta and the other characters, and Patricia Cornwell took like a hiatus from writing for like so long that I was like, well, that's it guys, it's over, we're done with Scarpetta, and I was heartbroken. And then all of a sudden she started writing again, and I've never been so happy in my life. And can I just also say, and I say this every time I talk about Patricia Cornwell, she follows me on Twitter. I cried. I cried when she followed me on Twitter. She's one of my favourite authors of all time. If she ever comes to the UK, I'll be going to a sign-in. I love Patricia Cornwell. I love her. She's the only crime novelist I will read because she's a forensic scientist by trade, and she knows her shit. She knows what she's talking about. If she doesn't know how to do something that she is writing about, she will go and talk to people who do it. She will train on how to do it. She like got her diving certificate so she could write diving into her books. She went and trained on how to fly a helicopter. Like, even the dog that one of her characters has, she has that dog. Like, she puts so much effort into these books, and I love her for it. And that is, I joke that is what I now use my forensics degree on, is reading Patricia Cornwell's books, because she puts the science into these books. Like, if you don't know what a scanning electron microscope is, you might have some trouble understanding some of that book. Like, because she will talk about it and just be like, like, I can't, because of how much knowledge I have, I can't tell how accessible these books are. I'm just like, I am in, girly, like, I am in, like, fully headfirst in these books. I love them so much. On a very, very similar vein, the next book that I'm excited for is Map of Bones by Kate Moss, and I think this is the final book in her latest series. The previous one was The Ghost Ship, which you'll have seen me talking about, and Map of Bones I think is either the last or the penultimate. I think it may be the last in this series, and it is the Joubert Chronicles that the series is called, starting with the City of Tears and then the Burning Chambers and then the Ghost Ship, and then this one will be the fourth one. I want to say this is the last one, but I can't remember if she said it's going to be the penultimate or if this is the last one. And this is a series that follows the Joubert family generationally. So we have sort of, in relation to the Ghost Ship, say. So Louise is the main character in the Ghost Ship. That is book 3. And so book 1 follows her grandmother, book 2 follows her mother, book 3 follows Louise, and then book 4 follows her niece, I want to say. So it's a generational story. So each book follows a generation of the family, and it covers quite a large swath of time. So it starts off talking about the slaughter of the Huguenots, and then Louise is she becomes a pirate in the Mediterranean during the 1600s, I want to say, and her the epilogue to that, we see her niece arriving in South Africa. When there was a massive Huguenot sort of like leaving France and Spain and things like that, and going to escape to South Africa. And I'm so fascinated. Like, Patricia Cornwell, Kate Moss, is so deeply engrossed in women's history. She is a historian herself. She loves writing about and exploring women in history. Her other books, Labyrinth, Sepulchre, Citadel, they are all about women in history. She has other books as well, but those are the ones that like I can see directly in my eyesight. She has written about women in history. The story she told about Citadel and why she wrote it when I went to see her at her signing had us all in absolute tears, and I can't even tell it without being in tears. And she is one of the founding members of the Women's Prize in Fiction. And I think obviously then I think the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction is just starting up as well. She is incredible. She is a girl's girl. She is wonderful. I love her so much. She was better than I could have ever imagined to meet in person. Like, she just is so inspiring. She's so wonderful. She's so humble and kind, well-spoken and eloquent, and just a wonderful, wonderful person to meet. honestly, and she literally sat there at the end of because I wait till the end of the queue because everybody else had like one book to sign. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I had 11 books for her to sign. She signed all of my books and personalised them. Like, 11 books after she signed everybody else's books at this thing. Like, she is honestly one of the kindest humans that I've ever met, and I cannot tell you how excited I am for this final book and to see South Africa in a way that I've never seen it before, because I've never read a book set in South Africa before other than Trevor Noah's biography, but obviously because he's South African, but like a fiction book based on the history of South Africa back in the, again, I want to say 1600s, could be 1700s, could be 1800s. I am bad with time. And finally, the last book that I am anticipating for the second half of the year, and this one, I swear if it gets pushed again, I'm going to the publishers myself and having words with somebody, and that is Heavenly Tyrant by Jiren J. Zhao. And this book has been pushed back so many times. It is the sequel to Iron Widow. I'm pointing there because my copy of Iron Widow is, my other copy of Iron Widow is over there. Iron Widow I will talk about in a minute, but Heavenly Tyrant is the sequel, and after the end of Iron Widow, I need Heavenly Tyrant. I need to know what's going to happen. Like, I do not know the history of the character, but I need to know what's going to happen in this book, because the world, the characters, the scenarios that the author has created, I need to know more. I want to know more. It is being released on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, apparently. And, like, when? Why? Where? Why? Like, it was meant to be out in September, and before that it was meant to be out, like, we should have had it in our hands now, but it kept getting pushed back for reasons that just baffle me. But yeah, hopefully we get Heavenly Tyrant this year. If you've not read Iron Widow beforehand, I would absolutely recommend you do. It is incredible. Truly, I loved it so much, and I cannot wait to read Heavenly Tyrant. Next is your biggest disappointments. So I've grabbed 2 for this, and yeah, unfortunately it's disappointments because it is 2 authors that I've read from and absolutely adored before. First of which is Do Your Worst by Rosie Danan. This book, if you've seen my video, my vlog where I read this book, you will understand what's about to happen. So I am bloody sick. Tamping it down. I'm tamping it down. I'm sick of American authors, and it's always American authors. I'm sick of American authors writing about Scotland. I'm sick of it. I'm sick to the back teeth of American authors writing about Scotland. Diana Gabaldon kind of gets a pass, but she's problematic in some other ways, but she's not too bad when it comes to writing about Scotland. There are some problems with writing about Scotland, but that's by the by. That's nuanced conversation about Diana Gabaldon in Scotland. But the problems I have with Diana Gabaldon writing about Scotland are very different from the problems I have with other American authors writing about Scotland. But back to this. American authors nowadays, contemporary people writing about contemporary Scotland, American authors writing about contemporary Scotland, I'm sick to the back teeth of it. Absolutely sick to the back teeth about it, right? I wouldn't be, like, could you imagine if I wrote a book about America, I wrote a book about the American South, and every character played the banjo, had 3 teeth in their head and drank moonshine. That's the equivalent, basically. And talked like they had, like, rocks in their mouth. Everything in here is a stereotype and a bloody caricature. It does Scotland so unbelievably dirty. She even spells she's oh right, okay. Nope, we're taking it down. We're taking it down a notch. It's fine. So if you don't know already, you probably do. My wife Kay is from Islay, which is an island, a very popular island off the west coast of Scotland. Now, it was a very popular island because it makes whiskey. Islay whiskey is some of the most popular whiskey in the world because it has a very distinctive peaty taste, because Islay is a peat island. Like, it is pretty much all peat. And so they specialise in peated whiskies. The reason I'm telling you this is that this author specifies an Islay whiskey when they are talking about whiskey in here. Specifies an Islay whiskey, and then spells whiskey wrong several times, and then calls it smoky. It's not smoky, it's peaty. Smoky and peaty, two very different things when you're talking about whiskey. You say that in front of a whiskey enthusiast, they are going to smack you. They are going to smack you. At least they didn't put ice or water in it, right? Like, they didn't, like, top it up with water or put, like, a whole bucket of ice in it. Like, in saying that, like, if you want to have ice or water in your whiskey, like, fine, fair enough, do what you want. But, like, spelled whiskey wrong, which I think is potentially a problem with the, like, publishing side of things, because it's not... They didn't spell it wrong in a way. It's like when you're typing something and spell checker doesn't pick it up because you've spelled a word, just not the word you meant to use. You know what I mean? But if you're specifying something, like, if you want to say you're drinking an American whiskey, yes, that has an E. Scottish whiskey doesn't have an E in it. But don't specify that you're drinking Lagavulin and then put an E in there, in the whiskey. Lagavulin. I don't even know if Lagavulin has an E, but, like, the word whiskey does not have an E in it. I had a whole rant in my vlog about the whole, like, don't specify you're drinking a Scottish whiskey and name it and then put an E in the word whiskey constantly. Like, whiskey, whiskey, whiskey. I hate it when they do that. Like, it seems like a small thing, but it's so, like, it's so easy to not do. Like, and you're going out of your way to find a name of a Scottish whiskey and you can't even spell whiskey correctly. Like, it just seems so disrespectful. And then to add on top of that, the caricatures that you're making of Scottish people, the caricature you're making of the Scottish land, the caricature you're making of Scottish villages, like, of the language, like, of the way that people speak. You're mixing up like, you've got one person in here who's speaking Doric mixed with Glaswegian, mixed with some Fife slang, mixed with some Dumfries and Galloway slang. Like, you've got somebody in here who just amalgamates all of Scotland. One of the characters. Like, I was sending snippets to, like, other people, and I was like, I don't even understand that. Now, this is set in the West Coast, right? This is set in the Northwest Coast. I sent something to Tori, and she was like, that's Doric. And I was like, yeah! She was like, where's this set? And I told her, and she was like, oh my god. And I was like, exactly. Like, this is the thing. Don't freaking disrespect a country when you go and, like, I don't even know if disappointment is the right word. I'm angry. Like, this really pisses me off. And it's constantly, I see, like, Lana Ferguson did it as well with her Lock and Key. Like, one, Nessie is not a man. Nessie is clearly female. So you can fuck right off with that. That one really got my back up when I saw that. I will never read a Lana Ferguson book based on that one fact alone. Never mind the rest of the stuff she's been accused of. But there are so many. I could probably find so many American authors that have just caricatured Scotland, and I am sick to the back teeth of it. And I'm so disappointed in Rosie Danan because I loved her other two books. I loved The Roommate and the Intimacy Experiment. I had to look at the books there. The only thing she got right in here when it comes to Scotland is how long it took to get from where they were to St Andrews, but only if they travelled through the night and there was no roadworks or closed roads or weather or anybody else on the road. Like, if you just typed it into, like, she obviously put it into Google Maps and did not take into consideration traffic. Like, if you got perfect, like, nobody on the road, you know exactly how to drive perfect speeds on those country lanes, yeah, you could get it within that time. And no more. And that annoyed me. That annoyed me that it was exactly the time that was on Google Maps that she wrote in her book. I kid you not, I put it into Google Maps to check it. Because I live near St Andrews. And when she mentioned St Andrews, I was like, don't you come from that bit. Don't you come from a bit. So yeah, I'm disappointed because I like Rosie Dannon's books, and then she decided to jump over here and just do that. So as you can tell, very annoyed. I've still not decided whether or not to unhaul this book. I feel like it seems like I should, but there were actually things in this that I enjoyed. If I could blank out the fact that it was set in Scotland, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the characters, other than the fact that if we could take out the Scottish written into it. I hate it when people write don't try and write Scottish accents in books, just write it normally with maybe a couple of wee bits. Don't try and write a Scottish accent. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like, if I could just, like, blank out the fact that this was written in Scotland. If it was written, like, there's so many ways I can improve this. Rosie, if you're watching this, I could rewrite this, like, I could make this book a 5-star book if we just talk. We can, your publisher did you dirty. I'm telling you. Like, the content of the book, excellent. They got through the publisher. I am the little, you know, the little, I'll put a picture from here, from Inside Out with the hair. Or like, Hades and Hercules, when he's like, me reading this book, talking about this book, and it's not, this is the thing, this is because I read this book, but again, so many American authors, I could probably find you a list as long as my arm. If I see an American author has set their book in Scotland, I hate it. One of my favourite authors, you can't see it's up here on these shelves, one of my favourite authors, my Arjuna books, has Scottish characters in it. Like, she's got some of them coming over from Scotland, and when she writes how they speak, I'm like, please stop it. Other than the fact that she writes the way they speak. No, I didn't think so. No, stop it. Stop it. Stop. And then sometimes they speak normal. And then, oh no, I didn't think so. No, stop. Don't speak like that. I'm fine. I'm moving on. Slightly less ragey was The Warm Hands of Ghost by Catherine Arden. The one thing I am slightly pissed about with this book is that it is being marketed as a queer book. It is not a queer book. I will die on this hill. It is not a queer book. I don't blame Catherine Arden for that. I blame the publishers and marketing team for that. Technically it is queer in like the very, 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 very furthest teeniest little weeny little teeniest little drop in the ocean. It's not a queer book. If you're looking for queer rep, this is not the book for you. This is what it's like. I said this when I was reading In Memoriam. In Memoriam gave me what I was looking for in this book. This is not a queer book. This is set during World War I, and it is about our main character and her brother. She was a nurse in the field, and she was injured, discharged, and sent home to Canada. Canada? I want to say Canada. And it might be in Canada. I can't remember now. But her brother is still in Belgium. And then she gets a lot of his stuff because he is gone missing, presumed dead, but she doesn't think that he is dead, and so she goes to find him. Now, we see both of their points of view, but there is a gap in the timelines, so we see him a year or so beforehand, so his point of view is in like 2020. No, it's not, that's a lie. We see him in 1917 and we see her in 1918. And so she is kind of tracking back what happened to him while we are seeing him in sort of the past timeline. And he has been trapped with a German soldier in this pillbox that has collapsed under a bomb. And they are trying to escape and then find their way out of no man's land. They don't know which direction is up, and they don't know whether they're heading towards the German side or the Allied side. And it is, again, this is a book that had so much potential, and Catherine Arden with the Casket Girls, my god, Catherine Arden is a fantastic writer. I just feel like, again, maybe our editor let her down on this one. This one, I think Catherine Arden is used to writing epic stories, and this one needed to be condensed down a lot more. Like, this one seems like it's drawn out too much. It's a lot of nothing, which is what was disappointing about it. And it was also disappointing that it was marketed as a queer book, and it is very much, yes, okay, at the very, very end, there is a queer character, there's like a queer moment. There's like a confirmation of queerness. But that is like within the last 5 pages. That's not a queer book. If you want to market something to me as a queer book, I want minimum 50% of the book. Minimum. You need to make it more of it. You need to make it more. You need to lean into it more. I'm very unhappy with how this was marketed. The marketing, I would say, was queerbaiting. Yes, at the end, we have queer. At the end, yes, they go off and live together as a couple because they are in love with each other as 2 men. In the last 5 pages. There's no indication before that. There's not a single even... I was reading this book going, who's the one that's meant to be? Is it her? Is it him? Is it her? Is it him? Is it her? Is it him? Not a single... There was no clue. A single point through this. There was nothing. Not a single hint at all until that last moment where it was confirmed. Nothing. So I'm very disappointed in the way that this was marketed as a queer book. And again, I don't necessarily think that was the author's fault. Like... But at the same time, if I was the author and I was being told it was being marketed that way, like, I don't know. There was failures in the marketing in this, and there was failures in the way it was done. I just think this is disappointing because I know, based on reading the Winter Night trilogy, that Catherine Arden can do a much better job. Next is the biggest surprise of the year. So we're going for the positive side of it. And just to sort of piggyback off of what I was just talking about, I'm going with In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. This book, I was never, ever going to pick this book up. I saw this book come out and I was like, yeah, that's not for me. I don't read World War I historical fiction. I don't read litfic. Like, I don't, if you look at my shelves, I don't really have anything that is purely litfic. I mean, this is historical fiction, but it is on the heavily litfic side of it. It is not, like, it was the same with Babel. Like, Babel is litficy. It's not like what I would normally read. Like, it's very cerebral, and I don't feel like that's my area, if you know what I mean. And In Memoriam is very much like that. It is very much on the litficky side of it. Like, this is one where I might cross over with Pia. And I feel like Pia and I don't have much crossover. Pia reads very litficky books that give me a headache. Like, Pia reads books where you have to engage your brain so much that I'm pretty sure I don't have a brain. Like, that's the way I feel when I think about the books that Pia reads. That or really weird horrors or really weird books where I'm like, are you okay? That's the kind of books. But yeah, this is one where I feel like we would cross over. So Pia, I think maybe you would like this one. But this is about 2 boys. I won't call them men. They are technically adults because, well, one of them is 17 and one of them is 18, or he's just about to turn 18, and they go to this private school called Preshoot. And it is kind of like an equivalent to Eton. Eton exists in this world, but they don't go to Eton, they go to Preshoot. So, you know what I mean? So it's like an Eton-style school. It's a private, public school. And this is on the eve of World War I. So World War I is announced in this book very early on. So In Memoriam comes from the title of like what they would put in the paper. So like it's not a eulogy, but it goes into the paper to have like people say nice things about you when you die, to announce your death and to have people say sort of nice things about you when you die. And the opening of this is a section of the Preshoot School newspaper, and to introduce you to some of the characters that you're going to meet along the way, and then the London Gazette announcing the state of war that exists now between Germany and the United Kingdom. And so it really does start on the eve of World War I. And so then it then goes on immediately to the school newspaper listing the first deaths of pre-shoot alumni who have died in the field in World War One, like literally. So like you start the book, so there's the title page, you've got the clip of the newspaper just to give you an introduction to what the school newspaper is like. It's normally quite satire-y. The thing to say, the UK is now at war with Germany, and then the immediate, these are the boys who have died, and it shows their ages. So we've got 22, 20, 23, 22, 25, 18, 21, 18, and then a list of wounded, and then immediately into the in memoriam pages. So in memoriam is basically just that. So it gives like a thing to tell you about the person and how they died, and how they died like valiantly for king and country, yada yada yada. That's the sort of idea of an in memoriam. Like it gives you the you know, it's like a little paragraph of like, that's what it is basically, but that's what it's titled after. And this follows two characters. We have Henry Gaunt and Sydney Elwood, and these two characters are very interesting to follow because Henry Gaunt is actually half German and Sydney Elwood is Jewish, and they're both English schoolboys at the start of this, and they both enter the war for different reasons. Henry because his mother asks him to, because she wants kind of to show that the family is more English than German. Like she wants to, like people are starting to shun them because, and they're like high society, like they go to deb balls and stuff like that. Think like Downton style. You know, people are starting to shun the family because of their German roots, and she wants him to go to war to prove that they are English, not German. And then Sydney then goes to war later on for other reasons. Now at schools like this, it's well known, or it's sort of well established that it's an all boys school. Things happen, like relationships are had, etc, etc. But these two have never had a relationship with each other, despite the fact that they are both secretly in love with the other. Now this book is queer the whole way through. Like these two, like I say, are completely in love with each other and they're best friends, but they never tell each other. Like they are not aware that the other, like one is in love with the other. And a lot of the realisation for their love comes from the fact that they're away to war, and that is in the synopsis, that's the whole premise of the book, is that they only really realise the stakes once they go to war and realise that they could die. And one of the beautiful things about this book, and one of the things that I raved on about in my vlog, and probably will do in my wrap up of this book, is that this shows how incredibly dark war is and how incredibly unprepared these boys were. And I say boys, they were not men, they were not truly adults. Like we know now that the prefrontal cortex doesn't really develop properly until you're 25, and these boys were going to war at, I mean the youngest one to go to war is 14, and you've got like 17, 18, 19-year-old boys going to war, and because of their place and rank in the world, they're going to war as officers. They're in charge of hundreds of men, and they go to war thinking that they are going to fight for king and country, and they're going to be lauded as heroes, and it's glorious to go to war, dulce quam est pro patria mori, 'tis sweet and fitting to die for one's country. And when they get there, they realise that it is brutal, and it is horrendous, and it is soul-sucking, and it is, there are no words that I can say that will describe to you or have you know just how horrendous war is, and especially in times like World War One, where they were using gas and they were in trenches and they were in mud that could kill you. Like the mud itself could kill you because it would suck you in, and they were, you know, they ran out of places to bury people, and there was just they couldn't get to people to bury them because of the enemies in the trenches across the way. Like the conditions that these boys and these men fought in are something that you can't imagine. I can't imagine, that nobody can really get their head round. And these boys go to war thinking it's going to be a good old jolly jaunt and are faced with the realities of war, and it changes them. And that's what we get to see in this book, is the way that these boys are changed, and the way that they, like, throughout this book there are sections of the in memoriams, and Alice took these in memoriams from, or not even just the in memoriams, like the killed in action, the wounded and stuff like that, and she took the details, or altered the details, but kept the numbers from these schools, and the numbers are overwhelming. It's absolutely, like, the numbers of these men that were just men, these boys, these children that were dying because of the horrendous horrors that were in the war. This book is absolutely incredible. Like, this book does kind of for World War One, kind of similar thing that Codename Verity and The Nightingale did for me for World War Two. Like, it brings to the fore the kind of horrors that these people endured. And again, nothing can ever really do justice to what they endured, because a lot of them won't talk about it, or you can't conceptualise something like that until you've been in it. But I think Alice Wynne has done one of the best jobs of being able to do that. I genuinely cannot praise this book enough for what it was and how it was written, and it's not gratuitously gross or violent or, like, shocking. That's the thing about it as well. It's not shocking in any way. It doesn't try and shock you. It doesn't try and gross you out. It doesn't try and, like, scar you in any way. It's just very honest. And anyway, yeah, I'll try and bring a cohesive thought from a wrap up, but that's why it was the biggest surprise. Like, I did not think I was going to enjoy this the way I did, and it has just really cemented itself as one of my favourite books of all time. But at the same time, just jumping back to my original point, this is what I expected from Alice Arden. I keep saying Alice. This is more on the verge. This is more of what I expected from The Warm Hands of Ghosts, but with a supernatural. Like, I expected Warm Hands of Ghosts to have a supernatural twist. So reading this after reading The Warm Hands of Ghosts just makes The Warm Hands of Ghosts that much more disappointing. Like, I feel like the comparison between the two really shines a light on how The Warm Hands of Ghosts just didn't do it. And then, of course, there was Iron Widow. I don't think I could possibly say there was a book that surprised me more than Iron Widow. I do not read fantasy. I don't read fantasy. Again, I will say it, yes, there is fantasy on my shelves, but when you look at the fantasy on my shelves, it is urban fantasy. This is more of a higher fantasy, so this is set in a world, it's set in another world, but it's based on historical Chinese mythology and Chinese, culture and things like that. So it is kind of like a mashup of sci-fi, fantasy and historical fiction. It's a very unique to me book. I've never read anything like this before, so I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just know that I love the author as a person. Like, watching their social media content has made me so intrigued to see what they could write, because their personality on social media, at least, I very much admire them and think they are fantastic. Like, I just really, really admire them. Like, I can't think of any better words than that. And so I really wanted to pick this up to support them in some way. I've got the hardback as well. I've got Heavenly Tyrant pre-ordered. I've read Zachary Young as well, just because I wanted to support the author. And I was genuinely surprised that I absolutely ate this up. I absolutely loved this. And the ending just made me want to read the next book. I'm so excited to reread this before the next one comes out as well. And yeah, like, this book, honestly, genuinely, like, I did not expect to love this as much as I did. And I'm so, so glad I did, because it just shows how much of the author shines through in the book. I don't want to say so much. Like, this, it's funny because I love Pacific Rim, and this is, like, thingy compared to Pacific Rim. I think somebody said on the back, Handmaid's Tale meets Pacific Rim. And it really, really is. I've read Handmaid's Tale, didn't like it. Well, I didn't like it. Like, I'm not into it's such a weird thing to say, like, you like the Handmaid's Tale. I wasn't keen on Margaret Atwood's writing style. That is really it. Like, I like the message. I like the fact that everything Margaret Atwood put into the Handmaid's Tale has happened in real life. And I think it's a very poignant and important novel, don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't like, it's not one that I'm obsessed with and would keep going back to. But having read The Handmaid's Tale and having watched and loved Pacific Rim, I can totally see why you would say this is The Handmaid's Tale meets Pacific Rim, with like that Chinese culture twist in it, and the author's personality really truly shines through in this. So I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait, like I say, to see what happens in the next book. Next is a favourite new author, debut or new to you. So I tried to like keep, there's so many that I could say, but I tried to keep new author, debut or new to you to someone who I've read multiple books from, and someone who I just discovered this year. So that really just narrowed it down to like not really many options. But for that, I've chosen Chloe Leese. Like I said before, this series, the Bergman Brothers series, has had me in a chokehold this year. This is the first book, Only When It's Us. Like I say, this has had me in a chokehold this year. 7-book series, one about every family member of this family, or one of the siblings of this family, and the disability rep is through the roof on this and done so well. I absolutely love this series, and I cannot wait to get my paperback copies so that I can annotate the living hell out of this series. But Chloe Leese has done a fantastic job, and I just beautiful work. Next is your new favourite character, and for that we're going back to Iron Widow and Wu Zetian, whose name I'm probably absolutely butchering, but my jaw is getting really tired. She is just, yes. The thing I get most frustrated with, especially in fantasy settings with characters, is when they have this weird conscience issue. Like, in real life, I get it, like, you can't just kill people. But in fantasy settings, when someone's got, like, you can just tell when they're like, no, we should be, like, merciful and not get rid of this person. And I'm like, they're going to become a problem for you later on, and you're going to wish you'd done it. Like, it's like, you need to, she doesn't have that issue. She'll maybe have the thought where she's like, maybe I should be merciful. Wait. Never mind. I love her. She is the best character ever. Like, every single thought I've ever had about like every single thought that I've yelled at a fantasy character for being stupid, she has subverted that, and I love it so much. So yeah, couldn't have been anybody else, honestly. Next is a book that made you cry, and unshockingly, first one I'm going to show you is Red, White and Royal Blue. You saw me tear up about it earlier. It's always Red, White and Royal Blue. Always makes you cry. But also, Reckless by Elsie Silver. Again, even on reread, this made me cry like a baby. And then every single Bergman brother book made me cry. Every single one. Just every single one made me cry. This is the 4th one. I just give it, like, every single time I'm just showing you a new book. Next is a book that made you happy. And for that, yeah, I'm going to show you another Bergman book, because this entire series just made me so happy. This one in particular, like, this one was really nice. So this is Freya and Aiden's story, and this is about these guys have been married for like nearly 10 years, and I really enjoyed the fact that Chloe Leese went back and looked at a couple who are already together and having issues and got them to communicate. That made me so happy, and just all of these books, just the whole series just made me so happy. And it was happy tears that I was crying about this book, about all of the books, because this family just made me so happy. Also, I couldn't pass this up to mention this book, and that is Love Letters and Thirst Tonics by Hayley Blackwood. This is also a indie published copy. It is only been released this month, I want to say. I also got an ARC copy from the author, and she's put out her forms for the second book's ARC, which she hopes to get out later on this year. I'm really excited because it follows one of the other characters from this book. And this is a cozy fantasy about two vampires that live in this village, and honestly, like, I really enjoyed this so much. It was just such a funny, cozy fantasy, and I'm so intrigued about what's happening in the next one. Like, what's up with the cats? Like, what's happening with the cats? The cats? Fascinating. It really did just make me happy because, like, the characters were so funny. It made me happy on, like, a different level as well because, like, the authors put so much work into this book, and to, like, release it as an indie author, like, I'm so proud of her. I don't even know her and I'm so proud of her. So it made me happy. Like, the fact that I got this as an arc as well made me so happy. This is, like, I've done everything she's asked me to do, by the way. Like, all we were asked to do for this arc was to read it and review it on Goodreads or Storygraph or, like, Amazon, like, some kind of thing. I've done all that. This is just me talking about it because I want to talk about it. This is also her debut, and I think for debut she's done such a wonderful job. Like, I cannot wait for the next one because continuing on in this world is just something I'm so interested in. I want to know so much more about the world. That was my only problem with this book, is that I want to know more. I want to sink my teeth into this world so much. Like, if you love cozy fantasy, I think you will really enjoy this. If you liked Legends and Lattes and Can't Smell Trees Without Tea, I think you'll enjoy this. It is, like I say, an indie published book. I really hope she gets picked up by a tried publisher because she really deserves this. She's worked so hard on this, and the characters are just, like, I just really enjoy the characters. I really enjoy the characters. You know, I'm such a character heavy reader, and the characters in this just make me giggle. Like, they really did. They're so funny. Next is the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year, and honestly, like, there's 3 sets that I want to show you. First is the Percy Jackson Illuminate set. I'm not going to show you the whole set because I can't be holding up the whole set, but this is my favourite of the set. It is a beautiful sort of pinky colour design. It's the last Olympian, which ironically is one of my favourites in the series. I think it's the last book in the series as well. The last book in this series as well, but it's one of my, like, favourite books because it has my favourite goddess. Is, like, one of the big, like, points of the whole thing. And yeah, it's just a beautiful sort of pink colour. It's so gorgeous. And under the dust jacket as well, like, we've got, can we just, honestly, Illuminate have really outdone themselves with their editions this year. And then, of course, we're going back to the Bergman series because look at these covers. And of course, again, we've got the beautiful underneath and the artwork. Like, again, they've really outdone themselves this year. The artists that have done the work for these, unreal. Beautiful. We're going with a ready pink theme apparently for these ones. But yeah, the whole, again, not holding up the whole series, but again, the work on the edges, like, well done, Illuminate, well done. And then you did not think you were going to get away without me showing you the beautiful editions, the Broken Maiden editions of Artemis and The Martian. Unfortunately, I do not have Project Hail Mary yet because it does not get sent out until next month. So yeah, we will just have to deal with Artemis and The Martian. But can we just appreciate how beautiful they are? It's the same under the dust jacket without the writing on it. And then this is the art that's on each of the... Oh, honestly. I've got dedicated unboxings for the Bergman Brothers series and the Percy Jackson series, so I will try and remember to link that down below. Again, there's the art. I unbox these in vlogs, so you won't see, like, a dedicated unboxing. I'll show you that. Honestly, the Broken Maiden as well, like, these are beautiful. And I cannot wait to get my Project Hail Mary one because then I'll have a complete set and I can get them up and on the shelves and displayed properly. So next up is what books do you need to read by the end of the year. I could probably say anything, but I'm just going to show you what's left on my 12 in 12. So obviously I have 6 books left on my 12 in 12 to pull, and that is The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker, The Familiars by Stacey Hall, Gilded by Marissa Mayer, Powerless by Lauren Roberts, Rambling Man by Billy Connolly, and the one we have all been waiting for to come out of that jar with bated and panicked breath, The Fragile Threads of Power by B. Schwab. This is the one that will ruin everybody's day because it is a chunker and I have, like, so many people that want to buddy read it with me when I pull it, particularly Jem, because Jem picked this for me and then I felt bad for picking it for me, and so decided to put it off herself and buddy read it with me when I picked it. So every single month when I do my TBR, I don't I'm terrible. I don't tell Jem what I've picked. I make her wait until she watches my TBR to find out what I've picked. And she stresses every single... I'm a terrible friend. I'm a terrible, terrible friend. But it's so funny at the same time. Because if this gets picked, it is... there's, like I say, there's a lot of people who... who've like been... Gradually, as the months have gone on, as more people find out about this whole buddy read scenario, more people have been like, I want to do this. So like, there's so many people every time I pull this jar out, every single time we're like, ooh, and then we see who gets it. So yeah, this is still, I can see this like not getting pulled until December, like, but this is a chunker of a book, and there's so much pressure. Like, the pressure is mounting on this book to be like, because we've been waiting for a while for this book, like, not even just for my TBR, but like, it's been a while since the last Dark Shade of Magic book was published, and this is a continuation of that, except it follows Tess, who is a new character. But from what I understand, there is quite a lot of involvement from other people reading it and reviews and stuff I've seen. There's quite a lot of involvement from the original characters as well, so I'm really hoping that means that it's going to be like a good book. I've not even read the synopsis of this. I'm just trusting the process. And the sort of penultimate question is your favourite video or post you've done so far this year. And honestly, I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to answer this, but I'm going to have to say my Hamilton book tag. I didn't even plan that I was going to wear this. This is the hoodie that I was wearing. I made, in a flash and blinding thing of insanity, I decided to make a book tag for... I was looking for a book tag. 6'5", the trust one. Anyway, sorry. Lisa just popped into my brain when I said that, the way I said it. I wanted to do a Hamilton book tag, and so I went looking for one, and the one I found wasn't comprehensive enough for my liking. It had like a few songs and not songs that I liked, and I wasn't keen on the prompts, so I decided to make my own. And because I couldn't decide what I wanted to do, because of the kind of person I am, I decided I was going to do a prompt for every single song. And it ended up getting split into 2 videos, because that's 40 odd songs, I'm not even kidding, into like 2 sections, Act 1 and Act 2. So I've got 2 videos, Act 1 and Act 2. I'll tag them down below. And so Act 1 has all the songs from Act 1, as you can imagine. Act 2 has all the songs from Act 2. And each has a prompt that you can, do. And you can also mix it up if you want to just choose your favourite songs and do, like, you can do it however you want. But I'm really proud of the fact that I managed to do, like, a prompt for each song from Hamilton. And I think I made them, like, vague enough that you can kind of, like... And, like, if you want to just, like... There's some of them where it's, like... You can kind of mess about with it enough that it's, like... It doesn't need to be, like... It's not that deep. Like, I'm not going to be like, this doesn't follow the prompt exactly how I thought about it. Like, if you think it fits, go for it. I don't even... It's just meant to be fun, So, yeah, I'm very proud of that. Like, this is the first tag that I've ever created. And I put so much of my, like, heart and soul and time into that. And nearly didn't do it. And, like, I cried about it. Like, honestly, like... So far, only Becca has done it. Shout out to Becca for being the only person currently, as of filming this video, to have done that. To have done my tag. Not that, like, it doesn't really matter if people do it or not. I'm just proud of myself for creating it. And it is just cool to have seen somebody do the tag, I'm doing that thing again where I start to overdo the explaining and stuff. Anyway, this video is long enough, so we need to move on. And the last sort of prompt question thingy doodah is to tag your favourite book community members, or just say who your favourite book community members are. I'm just gonna like tag and put links to all of my friends, my bookish friends that I talk to all the time, like my group chat people. So like, yeah, they'll all just be in there. I'm just going to tag all my friends and stuff like that. There's a bunch of us. So yeah, I'm not going to sit here and name people. You'll know who you are. I'm just put as many people as I can sort of think of down in the description. So yeah, just go and follow and check out everybody below. Thanks so much for watching. I thought this was going to be a nice quick video. It did not turn out to be a nice quick video. I am very sorry for anybody who sat and watched this, because this got a little bit out of control. And this is why we don't do things like this, Andy. This is why we don't do things like this, Andy. Anywho, I'm gonna go now, and I need to get this edited and get this up so you can see it hopefully later on today. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to let me know if you've read any of the books that I have talked about today, and if you enjoyed them or you didn't, or you want to talk about them at all, please let me know down below in the I was going to say the description again. That's wrong. In the comments. And if you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to sit and type out a comment, why don't you leave me, there's a spool of thread emoji, I'm pretty sure, for the fragile thread of power. just to apologise for me calling Gem out like that. Love you, Gem. We will read it. It will be fine. It will be fine. It's going to be fine. It'll be fine. I promise you, it will be fine. It'll happen when it happens, and it will be fine. The universe has our backs. I promise you. So yeah, that's it for me, and I will see you in the next video, where hopefully it will be a bit better planned. Should be, because it should be my July TBR. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!